The education sector has long been the leader in bringing to light the missing pieces of United States history. It is not surprising, then, that the call for acknowledging and celebrating women's contributions began in our schools, tracing back to 1978, when the Education Task Force of the Sonoma County Commission on the Status of Women in California initiated a Women's History Week to celebrate women's contributions to culture, history, and society. Decades earlier, the women's movement of the 1960s had brought women's issues to light, followed by the work of historian and activist Gerda Lerner, noting that women's history was virtually unknown in terms of K through 12 curriculums. The task force aimed to address this. The effort attracted national attention, with more than 100 community women participating in special presentations in classrooms throughout the county, the country, and hundreds of students in dozens of schools making submissions to a real woman essay writing contest.
Hi, I'm Councilwoman Shaneka Boucher from Camden, New Jersey, and I am the president of Social Responsibility Through Me. Born and raised in Brooklyn, New York, and I would say my grandmother was definitely a positive influence in my life. She just was very strong and very bold, and she always taught me to value people, not to judge people, and to work really, really hard. So when I was growing up in Bed-Stuy, Brooklyn, I went to PS 305 first. And my family was mainly in Bedford-Stuyvesant. And when I was 10 years old, we moved to Park Slope. And I realized even in the 5th grade that there was a big disparity in the way that the education was being delivered to me as a student. And there were so many opportunities. Like I was able to join the Glee Club, and I never heard of it in my neighborhood in Bed-Stuy. I learned immediately, like depending on where you were from or what neighborhood you were in, there were opportunities that were given to you that other people just didn't have. And for me, that put my life on a completely different trajectory. And I think if we wouldn't have moved out of Bedford-Stuyvesant, my story could be way different. And for me, I was able to get into one of the better high schools in New York City, which was telecommunications. And there was a lot of focus on technology and computers. So we learned a lot, and I was able to just kind of excel there and have a lot of friends who were successful. And I just was able to find kind of what I wanted to do, which I thought was law. And I thought that I was going to end up being a lawyer until I had my daughter. I kind of changed trajectories and really got involved in the community a little bit more. But that was where I grew my passion in education. I really learned that there is a difference depending on where you are. And I didn't think that that was fair. And I recognized that I had some benefits that were given to me just because my mom moved to a different community. And in that community, it wasn't a majority of the people who looked like me. And that really made me feel bad. I felt sad about it. And it was encouraging and discouraging at the same time, because I recognized that a lot of people that I grew up with would never have the opportunities that I had because they were still in the same community, but they just didn't get the experiences that I had. I took that and I always took that and carried that with me in my career. And I always was kind of like advocating to talk about the differences and how we should equalize those opportunities for people so that everybody can have an opportunity to be successful. I started at the State University of Morrisville, which is in upstate New York. And again, when I was there was a little bit of disparity between me and a few of my other friends that were African American. I found that I was in classes mainly with people who didn't look like me, and I was a minority in that class. And my friends that I might have even went to school with, like they were in different classroom settings. So I majored in business administration when I was in that school. And then I ended up finishing at Hunter College in New York City, which I felt like was a lot more diverse. But when I was upstate New York, I recognized that some students really had a hard time and they were taking different types of classes than I were. But then I felt like I had an advantage in terms of my education. And I think that was directly related to the high school that I went to. I really joined the events squad, and there's no real great reason except for I had an opportunity to get into the parties free. But I learned a lot about how to plan events with the schools and how to work with a group of people and decide what kind of student activities would happen within the schools. And I also joined the student union, where we put together fashion shows and things like that. So I had a lot of fun doing that, working with various groups of students on campus. But that was really what I was involved in. I decided April of 2020 that I was gonna run, and that was after the party asked me to join their ticket. And it was really a great experience. I really enjoyed doing it, but it really came from an idea that I had already been doing the work within the community. So stepping into this position of leadership just seemed like a natural progression. It's pretty selfish because I always think about making the future better for my daughter and wanting to make sure that not just for her, but for every kid that is going to be left on this earth with her is just going to be better off. And I just think that that is my role and my job to do. So within the community, I work a lot with kids. I'm extremely passionate about that. I've always kind of volunteered ever since I was still a youth myself, of helping other children. But I really enjoy working with them because I see them as kind of the bridge to some of the things that we need to happen in the future, and helping them understand that they have a voice and that they can advocate for change. And so that's a lot of the work that I do, is really teaching young people within the community that the community is theirs, and that anything that they want to see change within the community, that they can do it themselves. Those are the things that really keep me going. I talked to her about hard work. I'm always impressed when I hear other people tell me how much of a hard worker she is, so she doesn't feel like, oh, because my mom is a councilwoman, or because my mom is in charge in different situations. Even when I took her to work with me, that means that there's less work that she needs to do. She's always understanding that she has to outwork people, and that has always been something that I've taught to her. And it's just great to see that she does that, and she's instilling that work ethic in her friends and the people who are around her. But then really just integrity about, being a good person when nobody is watching. And then always making sure that her reputation is intact. So again, that goes back to the integrity of, you have to do what you say you're going to do. And you have to, you have to care about what you're doing. You can't just give people anything, right? The product of your work has to be excellent. And so that is what I generally instill in her. And I was really excited to hear about that news, because we don't have a lot of role models that we can look at to see leading. And it was just really exciting. And I had an opportunity to work with her on a panel, and she was just amazing. The way that she thinks about education and how she wants to engage within the community, and just what I feel like is just being a real person, where it doesn't feel stuffy working with her, where she's just, out of touch with the community. It felt like she was very in touch with the community, like she was very in touch with students, and she had a passion and zest for the work. So when I heard about her doing the work, I was excited. But then when I had an opportunity to meet her, I felt like it was transformational, and I hope we can build a relationship in the future. It's extremely important to women, because most of the time, when I think back to being a young girl, there weren't a lot of, I would say sometimes, role models. I didn't see myself in a lot of places. And there were times where, it felt like it was either the street, and when I say the street, some of the negative things that was happening in the street, or, looking to other ethnicities to really try to figure out what you could do. And it just didn't feel like a lot of options. But when you see Marquita leading a university, I can show my daughter that. And I'm like, hey, this is a university that you could check out. And there's somebody like you leading. And maybe one day you could be the leader at a university. So I think that it just gives us hope. It gives us what I would say is an opportunity to present ourselves and have some courage to pursue the dreams that we have deep inside. And even for me as a leader of city council, it still makes me hope and think that there are so many different opportunities that I could have beyond just being a councilwoman. If maybe I could even lead a university when I saw her there. So I'm just so happy to have her at the helm. These ladies are phenomenal. For me, like I said, it's just inspiring to know what Black women are capable of. I think I've always known internally, but to see, you know, all of the internal hopes that you have, you know, be present externally, where you can actually say, like, I have a VP who is in the office who looks like me, and there's another woman who's running a university that looks like me. And, you know, being able to kind of go through their journeys and study them and learn the path that they took and know that that path is not very different from my own, and connected to some of the passions, you know, like being in sororities and connecting to fraternities and really building out our culture and creating culture, right? Like I see that with Marquita, and I also see that with Kamala Harris, of how they are bringing their culture to it. Like they look like they bring, and they're not trying to assimilate, you know, which is extremely important to me, where you have the chucks and pearls. And when I see Marquita, I see her with her style that really is reflective, what I think is of our culture. And that makes me really feel good about doing the same when I'm in places, and I don't have to be assimilate into what I would say is other cultures. And it makes me feel confident in who I am, and comfortable about bringing that to the table when people see me, that they can recognize that I'm a powerful Black woman. The role model piece. When I was young, I didn't know the value of a role model. And I think that when I grew up and I had my daughter, I understood it in a way that it just didn't connect until that point of seeing, like, I needed to see someone. I needed the live example, and it was hard to find those examples because I knew that I wanted to change the world. I felt like I could, but I kept, you know, being around situations that made me think that I wasn't going to be able to. And so when I look at Kamala Harris, even from where I sit, now I'm saying to myself, like, can a councilwoman be a congresswoman? Can a councilwoman be a vice president or a president, or run a Fortune 500 company? And there have been, I would say, efforts put into this, but when you're in the space, it feels like there's a lot of things against you. But thinking and seeing that people have persevered through those struggles and have still made it, even with all attacks against them, because I think one thing we don't discuss enough is the attacks against you when you come into that space. Like if we look at Michelle Obama, and even what happened to Kamala when she was in that space, all the attacks that came against her. And so just seeing the strength of those women to move forward and to continue their work just gives me the inspiration and courage to continue mine. And for me, I'm hoping that I am a good role model to young women, but they tell me that. So through the work that we do about teaching students how to have a voice, how to advocate for themselves, how to change their community, how to volunteer in their community, how to want more for their community, and how to find those resources within their own community so that they don't have to leave, so that they know that they can be direct contributors and make the types of communities that they want, and lend their voice to that change. That is the work that I think that I'm doing that's going to provide a base for the future. But what I'm going to look forward to is seeing how many of my students or kids that I've influenced stick around and make the change in Camden that we all talk about so much. And I hope that I'm giving them the courage, like so many of the people that come before me have given me. I hope that I'm giving that back to those students, and anyone that I'm influencing through me lending myself as a role model to the community. Ladies, stay encouraged. You can do it. I know that the road ahead sometimes looks hard. I was a single mom. When I had my daughter, I did not finish my degree, but I did not let that stop me. And I did have to make sacrifices, but every sacrifice that you make will be worth it in the long run. And I know that the path doesn't always look clear, but sometimes you have to take the road less traveled to reach your end goal, and you will. And if things don't go the way that you have planned, go with the other, and the other will definitely lead you where you're supposed to be. But whatever you do, don't give up, and find a good network of people that'll continue to encourage you along the way, because you definitely can make it.
My name is Jenny Mundell. I am the first ward councilwoman in Bloomfield, New Jersey. I am also the Assistant Vice President for Development and Strategic Initiatives at RWJ Barnabas Health. Well, women certainly deserve more than a month of recognition. They deserve year-round recognition for their vast contributions to history. It's important to ensure that we shine a spotlight on women during Women's History Month, because frankly, we're just not there yet where we are celebrating women year-round. So this gives us an opportunity to make sure that we are highlighting the very important things that women have done to keep the world running. So I was born in Boston, Massachusetts, where I went to grammar school, and then I moved to a small town outside of Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania for my latter years in junior high and high school. And then after that I went to Penn State University for my undergraduate degree, and I did a master's degree at Montclair State University. And in terms of my influences, I've been very influenced by many members of my family, my mother in particular, who passed away actually when I was a child. But she taught me in the time that I got to spend with her the importance of being involved in my community. And then of course my father, and I have many aunts and uncles who have also done the same. So I was not a student leader actually, but I was a very hard worker because I worked almost full-time during college. So when I was an undergrad, I took classes. I majored in English, and as I said, I worked almost full-time in restaurants. And then when I went to grad school, I was also working full-time. I was asked to consider coming on board to finish the term of my predecessor in 2017, and then I ran for my own term that year, and then did a full term, and then ran for a second term, which I'm currently serving right now. Well, I'm certainly motivated by all of the amazing things that are happening in Bloomfield, New Jersey right now. It's a growing town. We have an incredibly diverse population that is very vibrant and engaged, and so that really keeps me going here. I'm inspired by my family, particularly my son, because I want him to learn that it's very important to be part of your community, that your community is part of your family. In terms of my priorities, I'm very focused on ensuring fiscal responsibility, ensuring transparency, and building community engagement where I can, especially in ways that bring people that might not otherwise be involved to the table and give them opportunities to participate in all the great things that are happening in Bloomfield right now. I think Bloomfield College has had that identity for some time, so I'm very happy to hear and learn, or I was happy to hear and learn that that the college was seeking that official designation. And I was really delighted to hear about President Evans when she was on her way in, and now that she's had a little bit of time here, because she is a wonderful leader, and she's definitely the caliber of person that I think can help take Bloomfield College to the next step. I think it's amazing that President Evans has made her way to become the first female college president for Bloomfield College, but it shouldn't be shocking to us because she is more than qualified, she's more than competent, and she's a visionary leader. But I do think it's very important for women like Dr. Evans to have a seat at the table, to be in leadership positions, because I think other women and men need to learn that that's a valid place for women to be. So we are delighted to have her as part of our community, as I'm sure Bloomfield College is as well. So one of the things that I see in common with Vice President Harris is a supportive community of women around her. I've heard her speak often about the important role that her own mother played in her development and the encouragement of women around her to keep growing and keep going. And I've certainly benefited from that as well. And I would encourage any young woman who's interested in advancing her career, really attaining any dream, to find other women who can be supportive, who've made it that far, and learn from them. I hope that other women see that they can take on big things, that they can be mothers, and have careers and serve their community all at the same time. I think it's about time we normalized the conversations around the fact that women tend to take on, not all of them, and not in every situation, but women tend to take on more of the domestic load and the mental load of caregiving in our country, and that nonetheless, with support of everyone, and I mean men and women, we can all have a seat at the table, and we all should have a seat at the table. The more of us who are at the table, the more diverse experiences we bring there, and the better decisions we can make moving forward. So it's really important to diversify that setting. I would tell women of Bloomfield College, don't be afraid to take the risk. And opportunities are all around you. So don't tell yourself that you can't do something just because you might be scared. There's a lot of things that are scary, but you are worth it. You can do it. You have the power. You have the capability, so go for it. Try everything that comes your way. And if you fail, that's just part of learning. I'm Councilwoman Mundell, and I am a woman of vision and courage.
Hi. This is Terrence L. Bankston, Director for the Center for Student Leadership and Engagement in Special Programs. Thanks for your engagement in this CSLE virtual experience honoring women of vision and courage. Special thanks to our program participants and other contributors of our Intimate Portrait series, with special honorees from the Township of Bloomfield, New Jersey and Camden, New Jersey, Councilwoman Mundell and Councilwoman Shaneka Boucher. Look out for our next Intimate Portrait special, highlighting author, entrepreneur, and community activist Jamila T. Davis. Until then, remember, go Bears and go shopping. Support Bloomfield College's official online apparel store for your custom BC swag. Visit www.bloomfieldswag.com to shop and join our mobile shoppers network.